look alive. Niggas came up on this side, now they on the other side.
So what you just saw is exactly what we're going to be creating in today's video. You might have noticed that I'm using Drake's music for this edit, and when you use mainstream music on YouTube, you can actually lose your possible income, but not with Licked. More on this later. Alright, so here we are in Adobe After Effects, and I imported a bunch of video shots and also a music track from Licked, which we're going to be using to create this entire edit on the flow of the music, which is a really important step if you want this to really make an impact. So if you want to follow along with this tutorial using the exact same footage as me, you can do so by clicking the link in the description and download all those files for free, so you can just create an edit along with the tutorial. If you want to shoot your own shots, that's fine as well. Just make sure that you're creating nice and smooth shots. As you will see, these shots have been recorded handheld, just to prove to you that you can already create some really nice results just with a camera. But if you want to take it a step further, a gimbal or any type of stabilization while recording is advised. So I'm going to select one of these clips, which will be the intro, and I will drag it into a new composition. Then I will right click here and go to composition settings and make sure that we're working, for example, with 30 seconds maximum. I imagine that the final result will be shorter than this, but yeah, we will start here so we have some room to play with in our timeline. You will see that all the video files are recorded in a vertical format. This is for social media such as Instagram Reels or TikTok and stuff like that. So that's why it's recorded in vertical, and I will click OK. You will also notice that all the files except the first one will be in slow motion. We can speed them up afterwards, and then it will give us more room to play with to slow parts down or speed other parts up. So this intro shot is just to get into it. So I'll start from right here, and there is a little frame here that is wrong. So I will just trim that and move it over. And so I'm walking, revealing the car, and then on the drop, we want to start our edit. So the next thing that we will need is our song. In the beginning of this video, I showed you the epic car edit that we will be making. And for this epic car edit, I used the song Look Alive from Drake. Now, usually when you use famous artists' music on YouTube, you can lose all your possible income, but not with Licked. They made today's video possible. Licked has made deals with almost all major record labels so that creators like us can buy a license of a famous song affordably. It's how the biggest YouTubers in the world like Mr. Beast, Ryan Trahan, Eric, and a lot of others are able to use famous music without losing their ad revenue. And in their cases, we're talking about millions of dollars. And Licked has made it super affordable too. Prices are based on your average video views, so smaller creators pay less fees. So if you want to use famous music in your videos, check out Licked by clicking the link in the description below. Let's get back to the video. And of course, our song is currently way too long. So what I will do is just find a moment in my song that I want to use for this edit. I will press L twice on the keyboard, and that will reveal the waveform. And so essentially you want to listen to your song to find a moment that you like.
Yeah. 901.
And so probably here on drop, I will change my shot. So what I will do on my song, I will select this layer and press the asterisk on my keyboard. This will create a marker on that layer. And like this, we can create some markers, which are going to be guides on where we want to change shots or do specific things. So I will just listen to it and do just that. So once you've done this for quite a bit of time, we can now start selecting our shots. So we have our intro, and what I want to happen here is to have the car zooming in and then being there in the shot. So like the example, so we'll find that shot here. So that's right here at shot 11. And for the first one, I'm going to start over here and then click on this to just trim it until that point, and then go all the way till the end. And as you can see, it's pretty shaky with a gimbal. This is going to be better. So once you've made your selection, we can go until here and then trim it at the end. And then we can click on this button right here, which is the overlay edit. I'm going to bring that right here to my first point when the beat drops. And I want to check my clip here. Then the first thing that I want to do is go to the beginning of this clip and then go over to the tracker. If you don't see that, go over to window and then tracker right here. and we're going to click on Stabilize Motion. This will open up this clip into a new window in the layer window. Then you will see this track point here. I'm going to move one over here to the license plate and then make this search field a little bit bigger. And then click on rotation because we also have some rotation issues, and then move that like maybe right here, and also increase the search. There we go. And once you've done that, we can just hit track forward and I'll be back once that's done. If you see mistakes happening while you're tracking, just pause, maybe make the search field a little bit bigger or the focus point a little bit bigger and retry. All right, so once you're done, just hit apply and OK, and that will apply the stabilization. And then you get something like this. It's pretty smooth. It could be smoother, and that will be fixed when you're using a gimbal, but we will check later on how to improve this even more. So after that, you want to go to the beginning of your clip and press P on the keyboard, and then hold Shift and press S on the keyboard, and then create a keyframe for both of these values, and then go all the way till the end of your clip. If you want, you can fix this by scaling your clip, but I'm going to try another route and go for effects and presets and search for the motion tile effect and apply that to my clip. Then if I hit the mirror edges, I can increase the output height to 110 and 110, and that will just mirror the edges here, but that will make it less obvious that, yeah, there is a transparent background there. So this works, and we're probably not even going to end all the way till the end, so that's fine. I'm going to keep it as it is right now, and then I will click on my layer, pre-compose this, and move all the attributes and just hit OK. Next, I'm going to right click on this layer, time and time stretch, because I know that I slowed this down by 4 times. I need to divide this number by 4 times. So I'm just going to hit 25, click OK, and that's going to show me the real-time clip that I recorded. Next, I will search my other shots that I want to add to my edit. So I'm going to search the light rotation here that I have from the backside. So maybe go for this one right here, and I will trim it on this moment, and then right here, and then also add this to my edit. Let's go for the second clip that we want to add to our clip. That's going to be the frontal rotation. Maybe this one right here. So I'm going to create an in point and an out point. Also add it to your composition. And just find all your clips, and we're just going to add all of them. Next, what I want to do is give them some structure. So we have the zoom here on my backside. Then I want this clip. So I'm going to offset all of these. I have these rotation here. Some clips we're going to reverse, but we'll do that later. So I see potential in this shot. Then we have this shot right here, which I'm actually going to bring in later. And I'm going to start with the close-up here. So I'm going to bring this one right here and that one right here. Then we have the shot here we want to overlay it with. Okay, and then this shot, great. And I'm just spacing them out a little bit just to get an overview of what I want to do. So now we have the setup here. We have the backside, a rotation, a logo, another rotation, a logo, the wheels, the interior, the branding, and final shot. You can trim this whenever it starts rotating. And as you can see, all of these shots are currently slow motion. So what I will do is go through all of these shots and stabilize them. So I'll click on this one, double click, and preview this. So I want to stabilize it, but this is a pretty tricky one because it's a lot of reflection in my shot. So we'll try to find these seams and hopefully we can track it right here. So I'm going to use the tracker. And in this case, we need to stabilize the motion, but no rotation. And we just want to place this right over here and make it big enough. That's probably too big, just to find that spot here. And there we go. And we're going to track it forward. So once this is again done, we're hitting apply, okay, and there we go. If we solo this layer, we stabilize it pretty good. Okay, great. So I'm going to pre-comp this and do this for all of them now. And for the last shot, I'm not going to do this one. So once you've done all the shots, I'm going to select all of them, right click time, time stretch, and 25 to speed them up to regular timing. And also for this last shot, I'm gonna do the same thing. So now comes the moment that we're going to put this on the beat. So right here we have a beat drop, we change our shot, but all I wanna do is right click time and time reverses layer, because we actually want to have like the same perspective as here, and then we go into that rotation. That looks really cool. We can jump back into this composition, and all we have to do is press P on the keyboard and hold Shift S, and we're going to select these or create keyframes and go all the way till the end, and then just reposition this here to the center and maybe make it a little bit bigger, and then check if we're exceeding somewhere. So right here we still do, so I'm going to move it even more to the right, and let's see if we still have this problem. Still go to the back, there we go. And maybe scale it up even more near the end. We don't want this video to exceed our position here. And there we go. So now we have fixed this, except here at the beginning. So I'm just gonna scale it up slightly. And now we have this nice rotation shot. So now we have this moment here. We're going to zoom in on the lights. Boom. We're going to do this nice rotation. Then we go into the close-up of the logo, and we're going to make this logo jump out of it. So it's going to be really cool. There we go. I'm going to press P on the keyboard, hold Shift, press C, and press S. And there we go. Go all the way till the end and maybe scale it up, reposition. And also for the beginning, I'm gonna do a little scale up here. And normally our entire clip stays in the frame. That's great. And then we go on to the next one. And just make sure that we switch on the beat. Boom, we have here. Then another beat here. I'm gonna use this one. Then boom, we're going to listen, and then boom.
Sis got blah boy, sis got blah boy. Yeah. 901 Shelby Drive, look alive, look alive. Niggas came up on this side, now they on the other side. Oh, well.
And let this clip play a little bit longer. I'm also going to jump into the tire here and fix that one real quick. So it's really going through all the clips and fixing them where needed. There we go. We're going to size this up, recenter this a little bit, and maybe even size it at the beginning so we definitely don't have any errors. And there we go. We can also always enable by going over here, enable title action safe, and then you can really center the wheel if you would like to. So the next thing that we want to do is make everything flow, of course. So we're going to start doing just that. But before we do that, we're going to make this intro shot. So I'm going to duplicate my original clip here from the Lambo. And I'm going to use my pen tool here and just roughly draw around the Lambo. Just like this. So you can do this as quick or as careful as you want. And it's going to give you that nice transition that you saw. There we go. And then I'm going to right click on this layer, time, and freeze this frame. So we have a frozen frame. Go back 10 frames. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm doing this with the page up key and holding Shift, page up or page down. And then we can place this over here and then trim it just before this clip starts. And so now we have this cutout coming over our clip here. So right here at the end, I'm going to leave it as its original size. I'm going to press S on the keyboard and create a keyframe for the scale. And then go all the way till the beginning and set it to 0. Then I'm going to right click on this keyframe assistance, easy ease, and jump into the graph editor. Make sure that right here you're working in the speed graph, And then we can zoom in here and just bring this anchor point here, or this handlebar to the right, so it really slowly ramps up in size. And then we get something like this, boom, and then we have the other shot. Now we only want to enable motion blur on this layer as well, so we're going to click here and enable motion blur for this layer, and then you can see that it's a little bit more blurry when zooming in, and that's going to sell the realism. Next, we want to create an adjustment layer, and this is going to be our transition. For the transition, I'm just going to hold Ctrl Shift and D to split this adjustment layer, and then bring it a little bit back, and then hold Ctrl Shift D again, and then delete this part. And now we have a little transition phase that we can use. So right here, I want to set the exposure. So I want to apply the effect exposure to this adjustment layer, and we're going to create a keyframe for 0 right here, and then at the transition itself, maybe to something like 2, and then a little bit later back to 0. Press U on the keyboard, and for these first and last keyframes, we're going to press F9, or we're going right over here and or easy ease again. Then go back into the graph editor, and again we're going to give it a slower ramp up and stop, just like that, very subtle. And now we have this nice transition. Maybe we also want to add a screen shake. For that, you can actually download a preset of ours called Film Bro Quick Shake. And so if we're going to double click that, you can install that with a link in the description below, and then press U on the keyboard, and we have our screen shake right here. I'm going to select this and offset this so it affects the second keyframe in the center, and then extend this adjustment layer and bring this keyframe in just at the end of this adjustment layer. Maybe make the adjustment layer as long as when this other clip starts, just like that. And then we will see that nothing is happening. All we have to do is click right here in the empty space, and then right click on tile center, reset, right click on anchor point and reset, and that should solve that problem. So now we have a nice shake right on the impact. We can always increase the speed if you want to. I'm not sure if that's a good choice, but we'll see. I'm also going to uncheck use composition shutter angle and set the shutter angle to 180, so we get some motion blur from the shake as well. And so now we have this really nasty impact here.
901 Shelby Drive.
That's great. And so now we want to zoom in on this tail light, and then to continue with this shot right here, I'm actually going to be using my adjustment layer because we have it anyway, and I'm going to add a transform on this, just a new transform, and I'm going to create a keyframe for position and scale, and then go right here at the end, and then also press T on the keyboard here for this layer and lower the opacity just so we can see it through. And then go to the opacity here, and I'm going to just for now bring this under this layer, and I'm going to scale it up and then move it to adjust it as close as possible in position. And there we go, something like this seems about right. So we can trim this last keyframe now. We have this nice zoom in. We can bring this adjustment layer back on top. Well, actually, we can keep it here. It's in the right position. So now we can bring this opacity back to 100. And now we have this nice zoom, and we continue with this shot. All we have to do is press U on the keyboard to reveal these keyframes. Select the first ones, keyframe assistance, and again, easy ease. Go into the graph editor and zoom in a little bit. Select this and bring out the handle to make it softer. And I'm also, again, going to jump into the use composition shutter angle and set it to 180. And so like this, we create some nice motion blur, and we have this nice zoom just like that. Next, we have this shot right here. And for this, I'm already going to finalize the shot. So what I will do here is right click, time, enable time remapping, and then bring this last keyframe all the way here to the beginning of the next clip, and then trim this just until there. And then in the middle, like around right here. I'm going to create another keyframe by clicking on the diamond right here, and then right click on this keyframe this time and easy ease. And here we can jump into the graph editor, and now you see this kind of heart starting like shape. We're going to bring out this handle and this handle, and that will give us some kind of speed ramp that slows down in the middle and then continues. And so right here, when we're at the middle or almost at the middle, what I want to do is I want to track my logo and create a nice saber-like effect around it, which we will take a look at soon. Then the logo will jump out over this clip into this clip on the Lambo, which is really cool. So now I'm going to right click here, enable time remapping, and do the same thing for this clip all the way here. And in the middle, we're going to create a keyframe, graph editor, press F9, and bring out these handles. And then also at the end, we can trim this and delete that last part. For this, we can also already do this. So enable time remapping, bring in the last keyframe, create another keyframe somewhere in the middle, right click, easy ease, graph editor, and dragging out. And then deleting the unnecessary part. And so this is immediately going to change the flow on the music, you will see.
Shelby Drive, look alive, look alive.
I do notice quite a bit of shake here, but I know this shot hasn't been stabilized perfectly. So either I should redo it or just keep it as it is for this tutorial. But essentially it was just increasing the size of the stabilization and making sure that point stays where it's supposed to be. So yeah. So if you want to stabilize it even further, you can always jump into this shot, select your layer, go to layer, and then pre-compose this layer once again, move all the attributes and click OK. And you can also try and apply, going to tracker, warp stabilizer, and then go into advanced detailed analysis just to be sure. And let that do its thing, and that's going to stabilize your footage even more. So this is also a great alternative. The only thing you have to be careful with is the morphing. It's going to take a warp stabilization of your shot, so it's not really taking one location. And you will see that sometimes your footage starts morphing. And that's where you play with this value right here. Setting it to 50 is a pretty drastic smoothness. Although it works great if your shot is already shot pretty tight, you can increase this number without a problem. But if you have a lot of movement in your shot, try working with very low numbers. Even go up to 2%, and it's also going to stabilize a little bit. You're definitely going to see the difference with 2%, but not so much warping sometimes. So let's see how that works. We're already stabilizing right now, so in the background it did everything. And if we're going to play this, we can see if it's smoother or not. And I do think this did the trick quite a bit. So that's great. We're definitely going to see it once it starts speeding up here. So
Shelby Drive, look alive,
that's really cool. Okay. So then we have this one right here. What I want to do here is I actually want to keep the original time here. So I'm going to click on this keyframe, right click, easy ease. And then I want to slowly zoom in on that tire. So I'm going to bring this keyframe over here and then go into the graph editor and maybe smoothen this a little bit more. And so now we're going to have a slow start, and then it's going to zoom in. We're going to zoom through the wheel this time and then go into the interior. The interior is actually a zoom out. So I'm going to right click, time, and then reverse this. So we actually zoom into the car. And then we can also play with the time remapping. So enable that. Trim it just until here. And then speed it up quite a bit, just like that. And then right click, keyframe, easy ease on that last keyframe this time. Then go into the graph editor and smoothen that as well. So we have a fast zoom in, and then we have this nice interior shot, which looks dope. Maybe until here. So I'm going to create a keyframe here and then zoom in, delete the last keyframe and just move this keyframe till the end here, and then double check. Okay, so that's working out. Our graph looks great. And then we have this next shot. So for this one, right click, enable time remapping, zoom out, bring this keyframe over, and then around in the center, create a new keyframe. And here we're going to do the same thing, F9, go into the graph editor and smoothing this thing out. Okay, and then we have this shot right here. I'm going to also enable the time remapping for that and start it over here. Delete this one and then go all the way over here and create another keyframe. And then select these two keyframes and bring them over. So now the rotation in is going to be a lot faster. And right here, I do see a mistake here in this shot. So I'm going to also press P and S holding shift and create keyframes for these. Zoom in a little bit and then go all the way till the end and making sure that we're not overlapping anything here. We don't get any transparency. Okay, great. So now we have this rotation and then this zoom. And just before, because we come from up to down, we want to have this come from down to up. So we're going to press P on the keyboard, create a keyframe, and then move it a little bit down. And also press S on the keyboard, create a keyframe for that, press U to reveal all the keyframes, and then go back to that same spot and scale it so you don't see, this empty spot here. And for this also right click keyframe assistance, and also easy ease, and dragging this handle out. And so like this, you will have a smoother transition. So first of all, I'm now focusing on the flow of everything, and then we can add some final details.
901 Shelby Drive, look alive, niggas came.
And so there we go. And then right here, we have this logo. And so a few frames before the end, we actually want this logo to leave the frame, and we don't want anything on our Lamborghini. So I'm just going to make it easy on myself and pre-compose this again. And so that way we don't have any keyframes to worry about. We can now duplicate this, right click, and then freeze this frame under time. And then trim it until here, delete this part here. So we have something like this. And then I want to go in here and select the logo with the mask tool, with the pen tool here. And so we have our logo. I'm just going to rename this layer logo and maybe even make it yellow so I know exactly what I'm doing. And then what I will also do is duplicate this shot one more time. This time I'm not going to freeze it, but make it the same length. And then I'm also going to make, with the pen, a little mask here around where the logo area would be. Just like so. And then I'm going to press M on the keyboard, or first I'm going to check. Yeah, I'm going to press M on the keyboard for this one, create a stopwatch or keyframe for the mask path, and then go frame by frame, making sure that our logo, we can actually disable this logo for now, that we're just selecting the space where the logo is supposed to be, like this. And just 3 frames, doesn't have to be much. We're going to select this layer now, press F on the keyboard to reveal the mask, and then subtract it instead of add. And so if we solo this layer, we will have a transparent spot where the logo is supposed to be. All we have to do here is highlight this layer and then go over to Content Aware Fill. And then here, make sure that you're working with Object and just create or generate fill layer. It's as simple as that. Boom, this looks great. So I'm going to hold Ctrl-Shift-D to split it and make it the same length. And then place it just above that layer. Okay, and so now if we enable the logo again, we can see that we can see it right here. But if we don't want to see it, we don't see it, so that's great. So we have our logo, we come here on this frozen frame. I'm going to press P on the keyboard, click on that, and bring this logo layer a little bit higher. So we have this clip and this clip being covered by it, and then extend it just until here. And maybe over here we want to, and then at the beginning also press S on the keyboard and create a keyframe for that. Press U on the keyboard to reveal all the keyframes, and then go over here and maybe even turn it into a 3D layer even, and go again to the beginning. Press the stopwatch here for the orientation as well, so we can rotate our logo. And so now I'm going to bring it in front in Z space, and I'm also going to rotate this. And actually, I'm doing a little last mistake here. We can see that this anchor point here is not in the center of the logo. This will help out quite a bit if it is. So we're just going to move this over to the center point here. There we go. And then right here, we can now press V on the keyboard to have our selection tool. We can make this come closer to the camera and rotate itself. And we do see that the anchor point is not in the center. Damn it. Okay, so we need to make sure that the anchor point now is in the center. So I'm going to try and find that with the right side here. Okay, you go to the anchor point. And whenever you see this hover like this, we can now move it to the perfect center of that layer. Okay, now we're there, hopefully. So now go back here to the active camera and then go to the center and bring it closer to the camera and rotate it like so. There we go, perfect. And maybe do a full rotation. There we go. And now we want to scale it, or actually we don't want to scale it, we want to push it in Z space. There we go, and overlay it with this logo right here. And try to make it as close as possible. Something like this. And then we can trim it. Boom, and then we will reveal that logo. We're going to offset these keyframes to the center, right click, keyframe, easy ease. Go into the graph editor and let it come to a slow stop here, and whenever it's close to the camera. That's pretty cool. And also enable motion blur for this layer. And so now it's leaving the Lambo, but we can also see that it's actually leaving its body because there is no logo underneath there. And boom. Actually, for the rotation here, I'm going to disable this orientation here. I don't like it. I'm going to use the Y rotation and go all the way till the end and do one full rotation. And that's going to give us a little bit better results. Okay, that's cool, but I'm rotating the wrong amount. So I'm going to do a -1. I do like this rotation. So maybe -1 is better. And I also want to rotate it on the, I thought it was the Y, but apparently I'm wrong. So let's see. Oh, I'm rotating the X here. Okay. So for the Y, and then at the end, we want one full rotation. And then just delete the Z, the X, I think. So it's really playing around, but that looks cool, really cool. And also easy ease them. I'm always jumping back and forth between the graph editor here. Ooh, that's cool. And actually, normally I would also go in this shot and also do the removal. But what I'm noticing here is that it's covering the logo at all times, so I don't think it's actually even necessary. So we're going to leave it as it is. But if you want, you can also remove the logo here, just like we did on the other shot. And if you want, you can also give it a nice little twist on the motion. So we can press G on the keyboard. And then if you go over the position here, you can do some small adjustment here. And so what I want to do as well is right here, when it's slowing down before the logo comes off, I kind of want an effect that will make the logo come off. So I will go here in the middle and apply the effect Mocha, AE. Double click on that and then open up Mocha by clicking on the logo here. Click on the X-Spline tool and then press Z and you can click and drag to zoom in, X to pan around. So hold X to pan around. And then I'm going to make a mask around this logo again, as close as perfect. And then right click to finish your selection. Select everything and make it a little bit smoother. And then on these corners, you can bring that out again. Once you're satisfied, we can click on perspective as well and track it forward. And go back here and track it backward. Okay, and now go to matte and then create AE masks. This will create a mask for us, which we can click and then hold Ctrl X to cut it away. We don't need it on this layer. So we're going to the beginning of this layer, new, solid, make comp size, click OK. And then trim it, Ctrl Shift D, and then at the end as well, Ctrl Shift D. And then go to the beginning of the solid and paste this mask. So now we have this mask, press M on the keyboard to reveal the mask path and set it to none. We don't want it to be affected on the mask itself. Then I'm going to search for the effect Saber, which is a plugin from Video Copilot, but it's completely for free. So if you want to install that, I will link it in the description below, so you can also install that for yourself. And we're going to apply that to this layer. Then we're going into the customize core, and we're going to change this to layer mask. And so now we have this on our mask, which looks great. You can now choose from all of these presets which one you like. For example, if you like fire, you go for fire, and you can play with the core size. So if you want it to be a little bit smaller, you can do so. I do like this fire though, so I'm going to keep it for now. And I'm also going to see, yeah, it's animating, so that's perfect. So right around here, I want it to be completely visible. So what I will do is go over to the core end and create a keyframe for the end and for the end size and the end offset. End size start offset. It's just the offsets that we need. And then go a little bit back and maybe set the end offset here to 0. Okay. And so now it's going to grow on itself. Press U on the keyboard to reveal all these keyframes. Create keyframes for both of these. And just before the keyframe here or the logo reveals or leaves, I'm going to set this to 100. So we have something like this. It's creating the logo and then it's leaving. And then we're zooming in and then boom. Cool. Okay, so right when it does this boom, we're going to create another adjustment layer. And this is going to be our impact. And we're going to bring this just above this logo here. Also, again, we can trim this. And there we go. Make it a little bit bigger. And so it hits here. So I'm going to search for the ripple effect. Apply the ripple. And then place the ripple right here. Then we're going to play with the radius. And we can see that the width can be increased a little bit, just like this. And maybe even the height if you want. If you really want it to be intense, you can make the radius smaller. And if you want, you can also just enable this behind the logo. Or actually, like this, boom. Or we're going to keep it up. So right here, we want it to have a height of, let's say 50. Create a keyframe, go 1 frame back, set it to 0. So we have an instant impact, and then hold shift and page down to move or jump 10 frames forward, and then set the height to 0. And so now we have this little bit of an impact here. Press U on the keyboard to reveal the keyframes. We can also add a VR chromatic aberration effect and change it to the stereoscopic or stereoscopic. Yeah, I'm right. Smarter than I thought. So I'm going to click here on these keyframes from -10 and 10. Go 1 keyframe back, set it to 0. And so now we have this kind of chromatic aberration on impact. And again, 10 frames later, set it to 0. Then press U again on the keyframes to reveal all of them. And on the last one, you've guessed it, easy ease. Then go into the graph editor, zoom in a little bit and bring out this handlebar. There we go. And now we have this shot right here of our wheel. And then we're going to search for the Mocha AE effect and apply that. Open up Mocha and go here and click, and click, 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 and right click. And then we can bring all these points in. So Control A, bringing all the points in, and then bringing all the points out to make a perfect circle. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're just essentially grabbing the tracking data of this surface. So that's all we want. So this looks great. I'm also going to enable perspective and then track it forward for my entire shot. We can click on this layer and we can enable this surface here. And now you will see this little square. All we want to do is extend it for the entire screen on the first frame and then close and save. That's it. Now we're going to create a new solid and we're going to make it the comp size again. Click OK, trim it just to the start of this layer and click on this Mocha, go to tracking data, create tracking data, and then corner pin is correct. And now we want to select this solid. So make sure that we have, for example, tracked solid. Go back here and search for tracked solid and then apply. And so now this solid will follow nicely. So what I will do here is disable this solid and choose my pen tool. And now we're going to be the artist that is going to follow the lines of the wheels here. Okay, so now we can enable this solid again. And again, we're going to apply the saber effect. And again, we're going to jump here and change the core to layer masks. And then we can change the selection, maybe again to fire, and maybe change the root or core size to something smaller, something like really small, like this. Looks amazing. And then we can toggle the switches here and change the blending mode, for example, to something like screen. And we can also play again with the end size here. So the end offset should be 0. Click on the stopwatch. And as we get into this shot, we want it to be 100. And there we go. So now it's going to animate on just like this. And it's not following anything. So I don't know why. That's because the corner pin is applied twice. And apply this one behind the saber. And so now it should follow, but it's not. Okay, so what I'm thinking here is it's because I'm not pre-composing my time remap layer, which most logically will be the reason. So I'm going to delete this and keep my tracked solid, which we created, and just quickly delete this Mocha and just pre-compose this and click OK. So this will most likely be the problem. I'm going to trim it here till the end and just quickly redo this. So Mocha AE, apply this to this footage layer and click on the logo. And I'm just gonna make 4 points, just like so. And then right click, select all and go in and just fit it. Well, it doesn't have to really fit up to this wheel, but it doesn't matter. And then track it forward with the perspective turned on, of course. Okay, there we go. Perfect. I think this was the problem. And so we're going to enable the surface and extend it for the entire frame. Close, save, tracking data, create tracking data, and select your tracked solid and apply this. And so now you will see that it's following your wheel here, which looks great. Fabulous, actually. And yeah, this is cool. So maybe right here, once it did a full turn, I'm going to animate the start offset. And 10 frames later, I want the start offset also to be 100. So it just shows itself a little bit. And then right here, when it's ready to make this full zoom, I'm going to press S on the keyboard and create a keyframe for the scale. Press F9 for that keyframe and then just drastically scale it up until it covers the entire frame here. Okay. Create a keyframe for the position And a few keyframes back, I'm going to reset that position. Press U on the keyboard. And it's always easier if you zoom in a little bit. And so now we get something like this. I'm also going to select these keyframes and push it out a little bit. And for this here, I'm going to make a mask using the pen tool of the logo cap here of the wheel. And there we go. And I'm also going to press M on the keyboard and subtract this. So we have this little hole here. And so now we should zoom through this entirely and then get the interior shot. So for the interior shot, I'm going to hold Ctrl A and close everything for now. This is our interior shot, I think. Okay. I'm going to bring this below this layer. And then I will also press U on the keyboard and extend it a little bit. Just enough to see it right here creeping through. That's cool. That's really cool. And if you want, like right here, we can press P on the keyboard, create a keyframe, and go over here, and then move this layer a little bit down so we see the door or the steering wheel. Like this, we get this really cool effect. So we have this mask here, and it's always transparent, so we don't want that. So I'm going to duplicate the shot and delete the mask. That way we see the original video just before we see the interior. Just make sure it's behind the interior. And then for the interior, we can even press T on the keyboard, create a keyframe for the opacity, and maybe even fade it in a little bit. And so that way we create something like this. And we zoom in on this interior. Great. And then we have our final shot. Okay, so let's do a preview of what we have so far.
901 Shelby Drive, look alive, look alive. Niggas came up on this side, now they on the other.
So now comes the part where we're going to do some final tweaks. So I'm going to select all of them and close them, fold them, so I can see my entire composition. We did quite a bit of work so far. So now we need to do some basic grade on top of all of this. So I'm going to select a shot where I can see a lot of detail. So I do like maybe this shot right here. So I'm going to create a new adjustment layer on top of everything. The first one I'm going to do is going to be blur effects. And actually for the blur effects, I need to create a solid, which is going to be black, and then duplicate that solid and go into the solid settings and make it white. And so for this, I'm going to create or select my rectangle tool and make a rectangle like this and set it to subtract. Press F on the keyboard and feather it quite a bunch, just like this. Select these two layers, pre-compose them, and this is going to be my blur map. Then disable this so we don't see this and go to the blur adjustment layer. We're going to add the camera lens blur. Apply that to your layer and select the blur map as your source. Set it to something, whatever you want. So maybe something like 25 or 35. And so now we have some blur on the bottom and the top, which looks really cool. Next, I'm going to add a curves, apply that, and also a lumetri color and apply that. For the lumetri color, I'm simply going into the curves here, and for the hue versus saturation, I'm just gonna keep everything that is black, and everything that exceeds these color spaces, I'm going to lower the saturation quite a bit. So that's really going to make this pop. Then for the curves here, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see it clearly. I'm going to darken the shadows and brighten the highlights. And then here at the top, I'm going to brighten them even more. And at the bottom, I'm going to darken them even more. Play with them until you're satisfied. And if you think the desaturation is a little bit too heavy, you don't have to go all the way. I do like this look, but I want to go overboard with the highlight to really make this pop. And this might be Not correct for movie making, but for social media, I do think the black really comes out well on an overexposed white image instead of a gray garage. So that's just my opinion. If you have specific shots that are darker than the others, I simply apply a curves to that single shot and just increase the individual layers brightness until I'm satisfied. So this looks really, really cool. To top everything off, all you can do is apply some sound effects on the transitions and stuff, but that's something I'm going to leave up to you because yeah, it's just adding in some little details here and there. And go through every shot and making sure that everything is colorized according to your likings. Maybe you want some of them to be darker or more contrasty, and that's something that you will do one by one. And here on the transition, I want to make sure that I do have motion blur enabled as well. And for this shot, I'm going to add a radial blur. And I'm going to set it to zoom. Something like 50 will be too much maybe, but maybe on the first frame, why not? Go for 50 amount. And when we're fully zoomed in, 0. And then press F9. And also play with this graph here. And then just, finalize some tweaks here and there. But overall, this is pretty much it. For the logo, we also added some motion blur. That's great. We can apply or go into the curves here and go into the color and just extend the desaturation just so yellow isn't so desaturated as well. Alright, so with all the techniques that you have seen in this video, I think you can do a lot of cool stuff and I can't wait to see what you can come up with. So if you post anything on social media inspired by this video, do tag me so I can see your work. I would love to see what you can come up with. My handle is @Ignace Aleya. Alright, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give this video a like and also be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you stay notified when I upload new videos. Apart from that, I want to leave you with my last video where I show you how to create a really cool spooky text effect in the mirror, just like you see in horror movies. I will leave you with that right here. Alright, I'll catch you later and until next time, create epic videos.